Welcome to Undertheowltree, a podcast exploring the strange encounters that experiencers have documented throughout their lives. I am Daniel, and together we will dive into these personal accounts. This episode, I want to share my own personal story from what I encountered as a boy to present day. Often the encounters that people have don't make sense until later in their lives, and I am no exception. Some experiencers have even had experiences outside the veil of time and have made to forget everything until a certain event in the future. My story starts in a valley not many have ever heard about called Surprise Valley in California. We moved there when I was young. Being religious, we joined the local church. Through making connections and friends, we got connected to the local reservation and the Northern Paiute tribe. We connected to the community because we wanted to help the families since there was so much drugs and alcohol and abuse on the reservation themselves. A few years later, we helped start a church on the reservation, and after that, we started to have strange experiences. I remember one of my first memories in Surprise Valley. We were at a church potluck, and I saw in my mind a baby falling off the picnic table. Sure enough, 3 seconds later, he did, and he cried, and his parents came and picked him up and brushed him off. But my father reported that he saw hand impressions around my neck one time when I was sleeping and having trouble breathing. I dealt with asthma and other health conditions, but this was very strange, out of the ordinary. We viewed this as demonic in nature. My mother had her own strange encounters on the reservation while driving home, or very intense visions of what happened to the land and the people who survived to there currently. The location was a magnet for these energies, and my own experiences were strange as well. One day we went out to see an old tree on our farm, and it was full of owls. They just stared at us for days, and my mom and dad had no idea what to do. So we prayed and we asked them to leave, and after a while they did. And I wasn't so aware of the strange notion of UFOs or aliens even, but we heard rumors that when people would go out on the desert flats of the alkali bed, that they would be taken and they would come back different. There was also rumors of lizard people running around and people that could shapeshift. These were the sort of normal things you would hear whispers about. And as a kid who was mostly alone and out in the forest, didn't hear much about it until later. I often think back on those days of being a boy out there and playing and pretending to be with others. I do think I felt something back then, something that was both far away and close, almost like familiar eyes watching you in the forest as you walk. I wouldn't connect the dots of the owls or other feelings I had until later in life. I was just searching for answers, as often many of us do, either in religion or other places that don't provide those answers when you really dive deep into it. But otherwise, that otherness was also guarding me and making sure I was safe. I had many dreams as well. There was one dark, looping dream that happened to me for years of a man chasing me and then stabbing my guts, and I couldn't get away. Something I heard later that other experiencers online have had similar of as a child. But I digress. There was another weird experience that happened in our own church community. There was a stranger who appeared out of nowhere where he could read minds. One day, a man showed up to our church pastor's house on the reservation on top of the hillside with no car, no transportation. He just showed up out of nowhere. This stranger could look at you and tell you your life story with extreme detail. He impressed our pastor in our community. He said he'd come from this secret group, but had walked away and was on his own path now, and he was, quote, saved and sanctified. The community liked him, but my mom was very untrusting of this man. Another detail that always makes my skin crawl is that he told her that children are exceptionally strong with psychic abilities here. He told my mother that the old group he was a part of would have loved to have taken me or the other children and molded them into tools. For later accounts of the people I would later work with getting people out of human trafficking, this was along the same lines of certain groups I was told about. This man would end up destroying our relationship with the community and shut the church down. He just showed up, and just like how he showed up, he disappeared. I would later have my own questions with what was paranormal, NHI, and secret groups operating in the open, but where that line blurs is a very hard thing to really get clear. Years go on in my life, and I remember seeing myself come to recognize some of my own potential. In 2015, I learned about a group that was helping save people from trafficking. I did not know some of these people out of security and safety reasons. We talked over encrypted channels, but I do know some of my own experiences that I never told a soul. They were relayed back exactly by what I intended, and again, I didn't tell anyone about. I didn't know about remote viewing until these 4 years of the service. I knew that I was trying to help people and get them out of danger, and I was pretty good operating out of that. But the main thing I did well was remote influencing. And I will tell you that in one story, this gives light to what it is. I do think we share a large intelligence network as humans. Even though we don't see it, we are affected by it. Often you will hear of an artist that gets an idea for a song or a product and just quickly loses it. And someone on that same day claims the idea and patents it. I do think that we affect each other more than we know, and this was something that took my breath away. I got a text that there was trouble for someone we were working with. They were cornered in a building and needed assistance. So I told the team I would help and see what I could do. For those who don't know, when you leave your location, your body, you go somewhere else, you need to ground yourself and put protection up. In this process, I meditated and focused on my special place that keeps me grounded. And once I was done with that, I projected to the location. Now in this location, this building, I saw a few bad guys who belonged to a deeply networked cult. One of them I felt had a quote-unquote opening, so I peered into his mind and dived in, found where the impulses were, his motivations as a person. I pulled on these so he would argue with the men who were with him. These were broken people and they all hated each other. So I did what I needed to and just texted over encrypted channels. It was done. 10 minutes later, they tell me exactly what I intended him to do, and he was now arguing with the group and buying them time to escape. This is one of those moments that truly took me back. I didn't know that psi abilities could really do something like this. Like from the movies almost. But later, when I left the group, I came across Lynn Buchanan's book, The Seven Senses, The Secrets of Remote Viewing, as told by a psychic spy for the U.S. military, in where he described his own experiences in remote influencing. This was very important for me to know that I wasn't crazy and something indeed did happen. But this was not the only time it happened either, and I can't go into more details about the other experiences.
Even ways that you can physically change while you're remote viewing.
Really?
Yeah.
You can physically change?
You can physically change.
Have you ever physically changed?
Well, I was doing one of the Saddam Hussein things one time, and the woman who was monitoring me at the time let out a scream and ran out of the building, And I found out the next day, she finally told me, she said, your eyes turned brown and your voice deepened. And she said, but your eyes turned actually brown. And so I had just accessed him to that point.
Whoa.
But I mean, after
your eyes
accessing him every single day.
Because your eyes, I'm looking at them right now, you have beautiful eyes.
I'm blue-eyed, yeah.
Milky blue eyes.
Uh-huh.
So your eyes turned to the same color as Saddam Hussein?
That's what she said. That's what she told me, yeah. Uh-huh.
So it was like you were merging with him.
Merging, sort of, yeah.
Around this time, though, as I was remote viewing and a part of that clandestine world, my mind started to bleed into deeper layers that I wasn't ready for. I had just gotten back from a New York trip, and I remember dreaming or seeing a house, and I was hurt. I was crawling, trying to get back to my mother's house. I was a boy who was scared, and the wind was cold. The reeds batted against me. I was always there in the country I lived during that old life. I was hit and fell on my back, only to see a man with a sword, like a rapier, who smirked and stabbed me in my gut. I cried, and he watched me as I slowly left that life, going up into the gray sky as I died. I woke up screaming and rocked myself like I was a child, and to soothe myself, when my then wife asked me what happened, I really didn't know how to approach it. But I told her there was that floodgate of many memories coming back. My connections to others who I loved or knew, and many lives I had lived and died. One thing did comfort me in knowing that there was no end, there was no hell. There's many lives to live and to experience. As that opened my awareness up to what was possible, I then felt a pull. It was a strong pull into the stars. I felt like the otherness was a part of me. It had watched over me, and now was pulling on that thread. As I pursued this path, it was really hard personally on myself and my family, as we all grew to separate from the church. Something that had been in both of our lives as long as we remembered. The lack of community from spiritually growing outside an institution is one of the hardest things I had to go through. But you must keep going, because like others, there's the other side of that process, and many are there. I came across the story of Jim Mars, famous UFO researcher who has now passed away. But he had shared one of his lectures on Mel Riley, a famous remote viewer for the military, who remote viewed a holy city on another planet.
Of them got to talking. They said, well, look, you see them, I see them, we know. Where are they coming from? Is there some unity to all of this? Is there a command center? So they tasked Mel Riley to go take a look at Galactic Federation headquarters. And he came up with this drawing of a beautiful lake in a high mountainous area. He said his analogy was Lake Titicaca, and that there was a big flat plateau there. And on this plateau was a pyramid with a ramp and an opening in this mountainous area above this lake. And he says, I found myself moving up an inclined causeway with rough stone walls on both sides. At the end of the causeway is a long, dimly lit rectangular corridor constructed of smooth dressed stone on all sides. He said, this is an entrance to a beautiful white pyramid type structure on a rocky-like promontory with, interestingly enough, these two obelisks on either side. As he went in, he said he had a feeling that this was a familiar place. He felt warm and accepted, and like he was almost like, I'm home. and he said there was a stone dais or altar here. He just strolled in and laid down on it mentally, and he said there were these hooded beings around him, but the whole thing was a pleasant experience. He felt like that he was they were kind of inspecting him just like he was expecting them. Now, interestingly enough, other remote viewers were also asked to go look at galactic headquarters, if you will. And this was the drawing that one of them made, and here's a little drawing that a separate one made, and yet you can see the details are very, very similar. And the one that really got me was when they were drawing, well, here again we can see a more detailed drawing of what they saw. And again, these are separate viewers, and yet they obviously are drawing the same location, wherever that is. But I really like the drawings who see this city on another world, and it's in a kind of a bowl, and there's living quarters along the sides. There's a water tank, I guess, a cistern here. They got a tall tower, and it's exactly the same thing that another viewer sees.
I was curious and wanted to know more, but I was also scared of the unknown. But I knew something was calling to me. When I meditated and pushed myself forward, I first met a wall of psychic energy. When I went towards it, all of a sudden I'm back in my body. No access was allowed. I knew I was afraid of this, but they didn't want me to arrive and not be ready. So a few weeks passed and I tried again, not knowing that I needed to approach this other with curiosity and neutrality. And as I did, I remember a large planet. And when I landed on this planet, there was a giant city with tall skyscrapers and vines running down the tops of them. There was a giant water fountain and a woman who was waiting for me. And I went over and sat next to her, and she felt like a distant but close grandmother. Like she was someone who had been around since forever. She appeared human to me, and with beautiful hair and the looks of her being in her prime. We talked, and after that I didn't remember what happened. But that was the first of many experiences, and I realized the universe was a lot stranger and vast than I thought. I didn't know this was interconnected. I just started to explore more faiths to try to get a scope on what reality was. And that included exploring my Scottish family heritage and that otherness and that side, which I would later connect to NHI. In 2023, this was a year that really woke me up to the interconnection between my earlier experiencers and NHI, non-human intelligence. The hearing of David Grush before the U.S. House Committee of Oversight and Accountability on July 26, 2023 was the catalyst to my relationship with the phenomenon. These following experiences I have listed out are from my personal journal, and I continue to keep it up to date. And I want to say a big shout out to my partner. If she didn't tell me to keep these records, I would have probably forgotten a lot of these things. And for any experiencers listening, please keep a record of it. It's important. One night, unable to sleep, I was tossing, but eventually settled into my bed. Yet instead of drifting off, I felt a compelled pull to project myself and make contact. Something was odd about it, but I did so anyway, and my energy surged forward, drawn up like a magnet towards something outside. While waiting me was a large vessel, round on the top, flat on the bottom. The walls glowed with a dim ambient light, and there were 4 gray figures moving methodically around the interior. They turned to look at me. I felt their consciousness shifting. They were speaking amongst themselves, yet leaving me out of the connection. But there was a clinical atmosphere. Medical perception without emotion. There was an understanding before my arrival of some agreement. Perhaps a soul contract? Maybe. They looked at me and then the memory stopped. I laid down. Afterward, I don't remember what came next. The day then continued, and what followed seemed mundane as usual. Work was routine. My coworkers wanted to go out for a 15-minute break, and I agreed and strolled along looking up at the sky. There I found a single bright rainbow cloud, one that stood out distinctly from the others around it. Instantly I thought, UFOs. I scanned the horizon, and no other clouds were like it. The sight was strange enough that I took a photo. But by the time I got home, I realized what had happened earlier. The experience on the ship, my memory block. And I realized what happened, the experience on the ship, and my memory block. I remember everything up to laying down from there. The narrative breaks, and I write it all down, still not knowing exactly what they did to me, or how long it took, but my impression remained clear. Upgrades. Information on the future, or something like that. September 19th, 2023. My girlfriend and I made a trip to one of our good friends who specialized in Reiki. This was the first time I'd ever tried any type of energy work of this sort. So we were both curious and a little nervous. Well, we spent an hour enjoying the session. I know in my mind it was very busy, a lot going on, but when I stood up afterwards, she looked at me with a serious expression. She said, quote, I don't normally tell people this, but during the session we felt fae all around the room, and they love you. My girlfriend explained later that they had heard things moving around in the space, physically, in the room. And she added, I saw something watching over you through the session, and it was a large owl. My girlfriend's eyes went wide, and we locked eyes, knowing that what this may have meant, and the parallels around that time were of note, to say the least. November 24th, 2023. NHI speaking session. This is the channeling experience I had. I really didn't believe in this before this happened. I felt like I needed to connect with something, and it came into my awareness, and the room shifted. And then they came into my body. And I remember my psyche rolling back, almost like I was getting out of the driver's seat into the back seat. The energy of this room was different. And this is a quotation from what my partner wrote down. They want you to know right now. They are family. They won't hurt me. And I asked them if they would bring you back. And the answer was clear. Yes, my assignment is here. And then they came about the question of being alone. The times you have felt alone, there have been others that are outside of your perception. The reason that things are vague, as they explain, is that we can make choices on our own accord. It's not a lack of information. It's by intention. Some things they could talk about directly, things I would forget, and that was okay. There would be a lot more that would unfold in the next 5 years. The connection was planned, it would happen, and then the message shifted. Disclosure of the others is happening regardless. Integration, 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 integration. Integration in both spiritual level and the physical needs to happen. The session ended with an apology. Tears were running down my face as I could not control my body. They said through my mouth, "We are sorry for upsetting him as a kid. It was not our intention. We make mistakes." And they said, "We love you." 12/28 of 2023. I woke up 3 times at 4:30. Felt super busy all night, and my partner told me she had an image of an owl in her mind all morning. She said the night felt like just a heavy sleep, like a heavy blanket over top of us. 01/15/2024. Vision. I was in the middle of a desert of Utah, on a road trail. I was naked, and an umbilical cord was being pulled by an NHI hand through an invisible curtain that was attached to me. Then there was other cords passing through me to other people following as well. The impression was this was what was to come, what was needed. These next parts are videos of my attempt to recreate these dreams and visions and these experiences. I was at an airport waiting area, and there was a landed craft at the tarmac, and soldiers were guiding people away. We weren't able to go past a certain point, and I walked over to the window where I can see the craft. There was a large head through the glass, hard to see, and it looked up. There was a jolt of energy, and a link happened. Information started flowing, and I started to tell the soldiers they meant no harm. It was the female visitor, I could tell, and then I woke up. As I was waking up, though, there was still an interaction, back and forth, communication going on. Later, I would come to understand our connection. I was listening to my partner speak, and all of a sudden, I'm in a tube or a glass container, which feels like water or liquid, I'm not sure. I'm in a body. It's not my current body. There she is again. But she's taking care of the others as well. She loves us all. She's trying to comfort my panic. There was a memory flash of her, the caretaker, sitting across from me in a darkened space. I am small, just a boy. We are in an area that's hard to judge the size of. Her eyes are dark, with what looks like starlight, hints of purple and gold. I'm falling into them. I'm not afraid. I know, or at least that part of me that knows them. The air was cool, filled with mist, very humid. I was in a swampy marsh somewhere. I remember the reeds passing by me as I floated by the craft on my right-hand side. I was not in my body, I was an orb, like the ones that everyone talks about. I felt so much more expansive in this form. When I woke up from this event, I felt like I'd run a marathon. Going on to my next experiences with other contactees and experiencers who I met through our podcast Cosmic Convergence. This was to be expected, because during the channeling event of November 24th, I was instilled with a need to find these people who I knew or worked in these alternate spaces. I later came across others who had had the exact same pull. Early on the podcast, we were doing a video discussion with our community, and someone asked, "Who do you work with when it comes to these grays or NHI?" All that came to mind was the elder. So I told them and moved on. but I would later come across two contactees, Susie Hansen and Jeff Silver, who interact with some gray aliens known as the Elder. This is something that really shook me to my core because we started sharing synchronicities and encounters together. One time, he popped into my head right as we were having an interaction with the Elder outside of his house, reacting to our text by shutting her lights off, the craft, and lighting back up, as shown in this video here.
Okay, I'm outside right now as we speak, and the Elder is circling my house. And then she's a drone. This right now it's a red pulsating light. And she's getting closer and closer. She kept doing these loops. And then right as she's cresting over top of my house, she goes black. But I still see the object. So there's just a black object now moving. And then you start digging, you start texting me. What the hell? And then she's gone back and she's lights again. But she was lit up the entire time. And right as you text me, she turned the light off. So the craft I could see a black object still moving at the same pace and the same everything, but just a weird behavior. She turned the lights back on and now she's going loops again. But why did she do that around your texting? What? It's between you and me always, right? Like, that's pretty cool. We keep doing this. What the hell, man? Okay, anyway, right now it's happening, so I have to go back. Okay, man, thanks for being part of this.
August 25th, 2024. Local events happened as well. Out of prophecy, I will call Brittany. They lived by us and had a strange encounter. One night, they called us frantic, and this was around 11:30 at night. And because they knew that I was someone who could talk about this stuff, they sounded panicked over the phone and described being let outside the apartment, not able to control their body. They were taken to the edge of a construction area where a craft, a UFO, was hovering between a farmhouse. It went up to her and did a light pattern, and then was instantly over our apartment complex, right over our roof. They knew where we lived, and it was just a few feet above. Of course, at this time, ironically, we were watching Alien 3. They seemed to have a funny sense of humor in that way, and I didn't sense anything, but they said this is what happened. They said a small male with a large head was behind them in the brush, and a circle of shadow beings encircled them, and one to the left of her was in front, directed energy into her abdomen. She apparently had a painful condition I was not aware of and was healed and did not come back. We checked months after. She then told us that the beings disappeared and that she saw the craft above our place and she ran. Just as she got closer, the craft disappeared like it was moving behind a curtain and was gone. We investigated her and the location and the event around 11:45 that night, and after we got her audio report, a small praying mantis flew between all of us. This is a very strange personal experience I think about quite often. After that time, I joined up with MUFON as a field investigator and started my journey of interviewing and investigating local experiences. Another encounter I had was with the Mother Gray, who I was not fully aware of. One night I was in meditation and felt a presence come into the room. It locked me into making eye contact, but I couldn't see her. But I knew instantly, in my bones, I knew that she was the one who had put me in my mother's belly. I cried out over and over to not make me forget. I did not want to forget her. And I was aware that they had made me forget her before. A stern, dutiful, but warm love that washed over me. The sense was, you are right where you need to be. Keep going.
Purebred non-human intelligence. Line 17. The biological experiments consist of genetic changes. Pregnant women are treated so that their children will bear the desired characteristics, just like I was told. This is a long process and has been going on for many generations. Each new generation is carried further along the evolutionary scale. The next 2 generations will produce thousands of purebred aliens, born of mothers whose parents have been treated and sired by the aliens through artificial means. These purebreds will form a nucleus for a community of aliens who will gradually inherit the Earth and replace the entire present races here. Some of these purebreds are programmed, so they will be directly controlled and they will serve as leaders. Thousands of purebreds have already reached adulthood and are serving the UFO powers now. Thousands of others are sleepers. They don't even know that they are a part of all this. At the proper time, they can be triggered or possessed by the controllers. This line is so significant as it displays my own personal first-hand experience. I woke up with my memories at the age of 41. It sounds bizarre to even say something like that.
November 13th, 2025. MUFON meeting. Well, my friend Jeff Silver, he sent me a crop circle over while I was out getting groceries. And there was a specific crop circle that there was something on the right-hand bottom area. It started to, best I can describe, as chitter at me, almost like vibratory, but it was like touching my psyche. I felt it reaching into me. It was so strange. So I kind of shook myself. I'm driving, I can't have this happening right now. And I just tell Jeff, hey, this happened to me, let me know. How did it affect you? And he responded that he had a similar reaction. And then Jeff later, he had this whole download about what they were talking about in the crop circle itself. So what was interesting, later the next night, we did our standard MUFON meditation, preparing for CE5 work, and suddenly a mantis humanoid stepped in my awareness, in my mind, almost like you're face to face, just like a few inches away. And I kind of, brushed it away, but then he just came back and would not leave my mind. So I said, okay, and we went up into space. The mantis showed me a planet. Not sure if it was Mars, but it felt red. It was a desert, ripping winds, ancient and familiar. And there appeared 2 of us, not human anymore. We were working together to solve something bigger. There was a sense of ecological disaster, and we were trying to solve what was going on. When I woke up, there was a sudden awareness, still lingering, but not gone. And the mantis spoke and said, what we do has been done before, cycles within cycles. This event felt like it was in the future, but outside of time. It's the same place. And it's really hard to judge where that vision came from. The interesting part about this is that I told the state director's partner, who I'd had many conversations about NHI encounters, and I shared what I had saw. And he just smiles and goes, you saw him too? I was hoping that contact is ongoing and I will continue to have experiences, I'm sure. I hope that you enjoyed my personal accounts, and I hope that it helped someone out there with their own contact experience. Remember that you're not alone in your strange experiences. There is a lot more that will be revealed as time goes on with our relationship with the visitors. And know that they have been here alongside of us since the beginning. The reality is that we assume we know, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. Work on deepening yourself and approach others with empathy. We are all in this together. And remember, the owls are watching.